from Fort Washington, Maryland. BlacNahlej, a cultural science, coming to you from Prince George County, the richest black county in the nation, and right outside of Washington, D.C. Today we're going to talk about a blackological presentation. And then we're going to open up for questions. First of all, I want to give thanks and glory to the Creator, honor to the ancestors, and thanks and appreciation to the Black scholars. I want to thank the Creator for my life, health, and strength, talents, and gifts that He gave me. I want to honor the ancestors for providing me with the knowledge of their wisdom and for having the courage of their conviction to do the work that would allow me to stand before you today and say BlacNahlej and develop and invent BlacNahlej. I want to give thanks and show my appreciation to the Black scholars for their uncompromising spirit in our struggle for freedom, equality, and justice. I love and appreciate you, and I believe in you. And you did a great job in maintaining the uncompromising struggle and passing it on to my generation so that we would have the assets and tools of our culture to make things better for our generation and those yet unborn. Julius Nyerere said, "We are the custodians of the culture of our ancestors, mothers, and fathers. We are the perpetuators of the culture of our children. We have no right to leave behind a culture that is less fertile than the ones our parents left to us." I also want to say I am thankful for Howard University Graduate School of Arts and Science and its African Studies Department for its innovativeness. What I like about HU African Studies is that the classes are seminars. Seminars are consortiums, where all the ideals are part of the shaping of the education of each person. In saying this, I want to give my position. I come to you not as a sociologist, psychologist, nor as an anthropologist. As a matter of fact, I do not come to you from any of the urological fields of studies. I come to you today as a BlacNahlejist, a cultural scientist from the intellectual cultural science of BlacNahlej. BlacNahlejist is a profession. We are introducing this profession into the intellectual academies and the universe to gain reciprocity. BlacNahlej is defined as the scientific study of the evolution of Black African people and their culture. It is the perpetuation and utilization of the ideals, philosophies, theories, beliefs, concepts, and notions of their past and present life experience and the spirit of their uncompromising struggle as their cultural knowledge. It is also the acclamation, affirmation, declaration, and proclamation of intellectual genius, creativity, and the Black story. Holistically, it is the manifestation of an authentic, autonomous, applied, Blackological, intellectual, cultural science, education, commerce. Every culture has its own commerce. The British has English. The French have French. The Spaniards have Spanish. And with that commerce, they are able to be productive and creative and establish their own economy. I say this because I want you to understand that as BlacNahlejists, we do not see things the way that the urological scholars have inscripted to us. We see them from a Blackological perspective. I have studied Negro history, Negritude, Negro nationalism, Black nationalism, Black studies, Black nationalism, African-centered education, Afrocentricity, Pan-Africanism, and African studies. I studied at the Black Panther Party International Black Library in Chicago in 1968, where I learned the art of Black dynamics. I am a student of Black consciousness movement. In 1973, I participated in the Black Student Think Black campaign at Harper High School in Chicago, Illinois, where we, as Black students, conducted a campaign where we exercised our ability to think black. These were the times of the civil rights and Black Power movement in the city of Chicago. When Martin Luther King came to town, our parents went to Marquette Park to join in the march. Our black consciousness was an effort to have more black teachers, a black principal, and black history programs at an integrating Harper High School. It was an effort in conjunction with the movement for Martin Luther King holiday. I have many life experiences of 57 years as a black man. I am a graduate and student of historical black colleges, Prairie View A&M University, Bishop College. I also attended Morgan State. And I am a PhD candidate at Howard University in African Studies. I also attended the University of the District of Columbia. These were the schools where Blackological research was conducted in order to develop, invent, create this field of study, this Blackological science. As Malcolm X has done, I have self-educated myself on black scholars before taking on urological institutional training. I have also conducted an analysis of my own miseducation in African-centered education at the Pan-African University founded by Abner Walker. So, as to undo my miseducation, I have also studied the book Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery by Dr. Naeem Akbar, so as to educate myself on the chains of psychological slavery. I have studied Decolonizing the Mind by Ngugi wa Thiong'o in African Studies at Howard University under Dr. Mbe Cham. If you have not completed such courses, you cannot decolonize your mind nor undo your miseducation. I have learned in my 40 years of study and research on Blackology that as black people, we are to learn from the information and studies we have acquired so that we can make life better for the next generation of black people. Blackologically speaking, we must ask ourselves, how can this help black people when we are conducting research and study? This is our cultural responsibility and our fate. Blackologically speaking, I am not anti-white, nor am I anti-Jewish, nor am I anti-Arab, nor anti-Semitic. What I am is pro-black. I am a black professional, a blackological scholar. I am a learned blackological scientist. I am a blackologist, a cultural scientist. I am black and proud of it, and I live the life I sing about in that song. I don't make excuses nor apologize for being a blackological, intellectual, cultural science, nor a black man, nor a black person. In the establishment of the cultural science of Blackology, one may distinguish a blackological research by the capitalization of all words that are associated with the cultural science of Blackology, i.e., African woman, African man, black African, black people, black culture, black woman, black man, black youth, Blackology, and Blackological. It is done to give honor and respect and importance to these words. In the restoration and evolution of Black African intellectual liberation, also it is to restore the dignity, humanity, and self-respect to Black African people. This is also a way to recognize and identify Blackological research and the science of Blackology. Blackology may also consist of its own cultural linguistics and Black phonics. In addition, it is not restricted to the urological language arts. This gives Blackology its own significant, identifiable writing form. In the urological culture, Black people have been taught to hate everything Black and African. The cultural science of Blackology is to undo this type of self-hatred and stigmatic injury by giving importance to all that is Black and African. I must be repetitious with this statement in order to be clear. The message of Blackology is different from urological studies. When I say one may distinguish Blackological research by the capitalization of all words that are associated with this cultural science, it is done to give honor, respect, and importance to these words. This is also a way to recognize and identify Blackological research and the science of Blackology. Blackology is written in 14 font in order to be more reader-friendly, legible, and easier to read. Blackology also has its own Blackological linguistics. The word science is spelled Z-C-Y, capital N-Z-Z. The word knowledge is spelled capital N-A-H-L-E-J. And the word intellectual is spelled capital N-T-A-L-E-X-T-U-W-L. These words were developed from the research and study of African language and linguistics. From the languages Fa, Hausa, Mandingo, Kiswahili, Yoruba, and the Adinkra symbols and the Adinkra language. See blackology.com and you will be able to click on words to get more definitions. Even when I studied sociology, I was not a sociologist. There was someone trying to claim my very mind and soul. The knowledge that encompasses me belongs to my heritage, ancestors, and Black culture. Only they can claim my thoughts, my ideals, because they are the ones who left the blueprint, or as the UNIA say, the Black print. I am honored to affirm they are my mentors. I am a gatherer of information, a perpetuator of Black knowledge. In the past, it was said that Black people were only good as drawers of wood, water, and pickers of cotton. Today, we have evolved into intellectual science and perpetuators of our own autonomous cultural knowledge. We are cultural scientists or Blackologists. I am a product of the Black colleges and universities and Black African culture. It is due to the uncompromising struggle of Black people for the redemption, advancement, and the redevelopment of Black African culture that my very presence was willed into this Black reality. As all people have intellectual studies or cultural science of their culture, the evolution of Black African culture has instinctively manifested the science of Blackology. It is said that dogs, cats, and animals are named by others, but men name themselves. As Black men, we must name the science of our culture. To begin with, we have culturally been conditioned to believe the assumption that the words all men are created equal is a product of neurological thinking only. This is not true. It is a universal thought. It goes back to the very first black civilization. Even the neurological Christians' myth of the story of man or Adam is a copy of the African myth of creation. According to the black scholars, such as Dr. Chancellor Williams, Dr. Chikanta Dino, Dr. John Hendricks Clark, and Dr. Yosef Ben Yakanan have stated that the black civilization reigned 17,000 years or 26 dynasties before the recorded urological history was known. In the Neurological Society, it is now in the year 2011 of the European reign. In the Black African culture, we are in the year 222 RE of the redevelopment era. The Haitian Revolution, 1789, begins the point of demarcation of the end of destruction and the beginning of the redevelopment era of Black African culture. The myth that all men are created equal is a known fact since the first civilization. Psychologically speaking, it is a known fact that every man and woman comes into life through the womb of their mother as a life germ from their father. Psychologically, it takes a man and a woman to make a human being. To see this as mythical is justifiable to all. This myth is the foundation for equality. I once wrote a paper, the topic, Integration, the Struggle for Racial Equality in America. Psychologically speaking, this does not follow the myth of equality. It suggests that there is someone who is not equal. All men are equal does not have any room for integration. The origins of the struggle for racial equality, according to Dr. John Hendricks Clark, are as follows. I will begin with the fact that we live in a conceived European intellectual universe. Anyone who tackles a subject of this nature goes against that fact. This is an ingrained fact, the fact of living in a European conceived universe. This conceived fact became confirmed in the 15th and 16th century. It deals with the principal decision the Europeans made during their 200-year turning point in their history, when they came out of the Middle Ages and made a decision on world dominance. This is the beginning of the struggle for racial equality, cultural autonomy, and intellectual liberation for Black people. If you are indeed trying to live by the myth all men are created equal, then it would only be proper and fitting that every people would have their own intellectual gifts. Equality means that every people would have their own cultural knowledge. Not that I would have to integrate into your culture and live by Blackology of Cultural Science, coming to you from Fort Washington, Maryland, right outside the Black diaspora within the United States. Our goal is to build an intellectual cultural science for Black culture. Bring to us a field of study that is of, from, by, for, and about the Black culture. Blackology is the knowledge of our ancestors, elders. Knowledge of our ancestors and elders. those things that we believe are sacred, that information that is most important. BlacNahlej.com. BlacNahlej, a cultural science, the ideals, philosophies, theories, beliefs, concepts, and notions of our past and present life experience, and the spirit of our uncompromising struggle as our cultural knowledge. It is also the acclamation, affirmation, declaration, and proclamation of intellectual genius, creativity, and the Black story. Holistically, it is the manifestation of an authentic, autonomous, applied, Blackological, intellectual, cultural science, education, commerce. BlacNahlej.com.
Litmus test Christianity. Who I got coming up? I got a break coming up. That's what I've got. Don't go anywhere. We'll do this, and we'll do that.
Hey, Harry, how you doing today?
I'm kind of down in the dumps.
Why? You got a great girlfriend, Sue?
She dumped me.
You got a great car?
Totaled by...
This is Bernie McCain, a dedication to Bernie McCain, one of our great scholars. Coming to you from WOL Radio. Listen to this.
And you got your career.
How'd I work at the city dump?
Hey, I know something that's sure to put the smile back on your face.
Hmm?
A $2.99 Big Mac extra value meal at participating McDonald's.
Hey, I love Big Mac sandwiches.
Who doesn't? 2 all-beef patties, special sauce. You know the song at... medium Coke Classic, and it's just like getting your Big Mac for under $1.
$2.99 Big Mac extra value meal. Yeah. But what if this is just some special price that I fall in love with, devote my nights and days to, introduce to my parents, and then goes away because I have a problem with commitment?
Harry, we're talking about a Big Mac extra value meal here.
Sorry.
Yeah, so what do you say, Harry? Let's see that old Harry smile.
You know, I feel better already. With a Big Mac extra value meal for $2.99, it's just like getting my Big Mac for under $1. I'm going to McDonald's. Hey, care to join me?
No, thanks. I've got a date with your ex-girlfriend, Sue.
All week.
What you want is what you get at McDonald's today. Prices may vary.
Let's more play circle. Give me that, girl. Give me that smooth, more liquor taste. Please don't fake it, or I just won't take it, 'cause it's gotta be, better be, gotta be smooth. Gotta be, it's more liquor, yeah. Smooth, more liquor taste. Give me that, give me that, give me that. Let's more liquor go. Oh. Don't you know, haven't you been told, a bullet is twice as nice, ice cold like velvet glove, or so smooth. The bullet is real, bullet is smooth, yeah. Let's more liquor go. Give me that boom, more liquor taste. No one does it like you.
Stroh Brewery, Detroit, Michigan. City lights can be dazzling, and Fashion Fair's lip and nail shades are positively radiant. Now, new Fuchsia Lights lipstick is included in your bonus with a Fashion Fair purchase of $15 or more. We've also added skincare favorites like deep cleansing lotion and moisture lotion, plus a combination eyebrow brush comb and wild cherry lipstick, all in Fashion Fair's signature keepsake box. Pick up your bonus today while quantities last. Available in the cosmetic department at Woodward and Lothrop.
I don't know about you, but I'm a little tired of hearing about the tremendous piles of money that floated around in the 80s, especially because I missed out on all of it. I guess I was born about 5 years too late for the $1 million bonuses and skipping off to Europe for lunch. I mean, it's hardly even politically correct to make lots of money these days, much less throw it around. Which is fine with me because I'm not really a materialistic kind of guy. And seriously, I'm just not that way. Still,
neurological,
there are a couple of things I'd like to have.
They have struggled for racial equality, cultural autonomy. BlacNahlej, a cultural science, coming to you from Fort Washington, Maryland, right outside of Washington, D.C., in the Black diaspora within the United States. Listen to this. BlacNahlejically speaking, BlacNahlejically speaking, BlacNahlejically speaking. The race of BlacNahlej. If I speak in the languages of other cultures and assimilate to their ways, but have not of the BlacNahlej, I am a copycat or a second-class citizen. If I have a theory, philosophy, and beliefs, and include all these great men, and have studied all their sciences so as to perpetuate their culture, but have not a sense of my own cultural solidarity, I am walking the path of resistance. If I throw away all my heritage and hold up the heritage of other cultures, but have not any consciousness of my own, I gain nothing. BlacNahlej is patient and kind. It is not jealous or boastful. It is not ashamed of its history. It is productive and creative. It does not rejoice at self-hatred. It rejoices in unity. It bears all its people. It believes in all of us. It has hope for the future. It knows what the people need and what they want. It endures all struggles. BlacNahlej never ends. As for assimilation, it will pass away. As for other cultures, they will cease. For their theories, philosophy, are imperfect, and the second-class citizenship is imperfect. But when BlacNahlej comes, their imperfections will pass away. When I was enslaved, I spoke as a slave. I dreamed as a slave. I thought as a slave. I reasoned as a slave. I acted like a slave. When I became emancipated and free, I gave up my slave mentality. But now, we must acknowledge the need of BlacNahlej. But then, for man. Now, I have knowledge of self and equality. Then, I was afraid. Even as I understand the need of cultural science, I know I must be understood. So I say to myself, it must be worth fighting for. It must be worth living for. It must be worth dying for. Otherwise, but the race is survive. If a black man or woman is not found something worth dying for, he is not a BlacNahlej, the ancestors here, black folks, also, the man BlacNahlej, intellectual cultural science. of the ideals, philosophies, theories, beliefs, concepts, and notions of the Black culture. BlacNahlej radio broadcast. Travel the BlacNahlej underground radio network at BlacNahlej.com. The journey to the evolution of the Black mind. May the content of your character be the knowledge of your culture.
Your class speaks in the languages of other cultures and assimilates to their ways, but has not spoken that language. I am a copycat or second-class citizen. If I have this theory, philosophy, and belief, thinking through all these great things, and have studied all this science, so as to perpetuate and
but have not any consciousness of my own. I gain nothing. BlacNahlej is patient and kind. It is not jealous or boastful. It is not ashamed of its history. It is productive and creative. It does not rejoice at self-hatred. It rejoices in unity. It bears all the fruit. It believes in all the truth. It has hope for the future. It knows what the people need and what they want. It endures all struggle. BlacNahlej never ends. As for assimilation, it will pass away. As for other cultures, they will cease. The theory, the model, are important, and the second-class citizenship is imperfect. But when BlacNahlej comes, there is perfection. When I was enslaved, I took as a slave. I dreamed as a slave. I thought as a slave. I reasoned as a slave. I acted like a slave. When I became emancipated and free, I gave up my slave mentality. But now, we must acknowledge the roots of BlacNahlej. But then, more matters. Now, I have knowledge of self and equality. Then, I was afraid. Even as I understand the need of self-defense, I know I must be understood. So I say to myself, it must be worth fighting for. It must be worth living for. It must be worth dying for. Abide with the mind of the faith that I. If a black man or woman is not found something worth dying for, he or she is not BlacNahlej is the ancestral gift of Black folks. Also, the land This BlacNahlej radio show is dedicated to the invention, development, and maintenance of the intellectual cultural science of Blackology. This is Blackologist Professor Cross, coming to you from Prince George County in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, the most progressive and wealthiest Black county in the Black diaspora within the United States. The sole purpose of this radio show is for the production, perpetuation, and marketing of Blackology or cultural science. Our goal is to develop this science and implement into the public, private, charter, African-centered, independent Black schools and home schools, with Black population from 1% to 100%. We come to you today, as all days, not as a sociologist, psychologist, nor as an anthropologist. As a matter of fact, we do not come to you from any of the urological fields and studies. We come to you as a Blackologist, an intellectual cultural scientist, from the science of Blackology. Blackology is defined as the scientific study of the evolution of Black African people and their culture. It is also the perpetuation and utilization of the ideals, philosophies, theories, beliefs, concepts, and notions of their past and present life experience, and the spirit of their uncompromising struggle as their cultural knowledge. It is the acclamation, affirmation, declaration, and proclamation of intellectual genius, creativity, and the Black story. Holistically, it is a manifestation of an authentic, autonomous, applied, blackological, intellectual, cultural science, education, commerce. We say this because we want you to understand and overstand and acknowledge that this autonomous science does not take on the vicarious scheme of urological thought inscribed for Black people. This research model is to create a new set of facts, data, philosophy, and theories for Black culture. Its purpose is to seek justice, redemption, advancement of Black people, and the redevelopment of Black African culture. Its goal is to build scientific studies that will generate educational commerce for all Black people. As all scholars will agree, Black people must do for themselves what they have been asking others to do for them. As long as we have to go to others for jobs, we will always be dependent, and we will not be seen as equals to anyone. Blackology, a cultural science, is to undo this type of miseducation, cultural conditioning, and assimilation. Our topic today is entitled, Are Black Scholars Morally Incapable of Reaching Up for the Black Knowledge that Forever Confronts Them? This is an essay from the Science of Blackology that elaborates on the topic, Are Black Scholars Morally Incapable of Reaching Up for the Black Knowledge that Forever Confronts Them? Blackology consists of its own cultural linguistics, or ebonics. In addition, it is not restricted to the urological language arts. This gives Blackology its own significant, identifiable writing form. In the urological culture, Black people have been taught to hate everything Black and African. The cultural science of Blackology is to undo this self-hatred by giving importance to all that is Black and African. One may distinguish this Blackological research by the capitalization of all words associated with this cultural science. It is done to give honor, respect, and importance to the words and Black people. This is also a way to acknowledge and identify the evolution of Blackological research and the science of Blackology. You may go to blackology.com, click on words, and read the definitions for updates and spellings. There is a pervasive notion that only urological scholars are significant in the acquisition of knowledge. There is an assumption that only urological scholars can develop fields of study. There is this insinuation that goes without verbal articulation in the atmosphere of academia that suggests it is morally wrong for Black scholars to seek or contemplate autonomous Blackological knowledge. Black people are made to think as though Black knowledge is inferior or uncivilized. This is equal to teaching a Jew that Hitler is greater and superior than Jewish scholars. We have been culturally conditioned to believe this fallacy. This is how Black scholars, we are to perform even when urological scholars were not there. There is this silence and ignorance that controls the intrigue and curiosity for the natural propensity of Black knowledge. But there is a matter of evolution. Nothing stands the same. Black scholars must evolve. With the advent of information highway, the intellectual genius of black scholars have been of need for blackological information, a vehicle to take them past the wilderness and the frontier, to carve highways into the atmosphere and stratosphere with scientific thought. Black scholars must reach up for the black knowledge that forever confronts them. I refuse to accept the ideal, blackologically speaking, I refuse to accept the ideal that the presence of urological scholars makes the black scholar morally incapable of reaching up for the black knowledge that forever confronts them. It is an offense to black people to be forced to accept and study Europeans as though they are superior and more intelligent or more honorable than our ancestors, elders, black scholars, who have given their lives in the uncompromising struggle for freedom, justice, equality for black people, or black African people. It is even more so an offense to be held up to the standards of those who have colonized black people and oppressed their culture in this era of redevelopment of black culture. Black people gave their lives that one day black scholars would be able to stand and say blackology of cultural science, or Afrocentricity and African-centered education. These are the shoulders upon which black scholars must stand and be validated by. This is my heritage, tradition, cultural obligation. To study urological scholars is to retrogress in the development of blackological creative genius. In black culture, to study urological studies as the basis and foundation for your knowledge is to surrender to the perpetration of urological intellectual supremacy as superior to my own cultural integrity. Appeal to your cultural consciousness. This is an appeal to your cultural consciousness. Black scholars have been thinking about this issue for some time, since the first time they translated urological language so as to take over the ships of captivity. Even though we are in the European 212 years, intellectually, we are still being trained and indoctrinated as though we are in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. It is time that black scholars evolve. The evolution of black scholars are becoming so informed, educated, and efficient in their research and study of black culture. The urological scholars are no longer needed to supervise or direct black scholars in the evolution of their intellectual genius. Black scholars have evolved to a point of independent, autonomous knowledge. Are black scholars inferior to urological scholars? Black African culture does not need urological language arts to validate blackology. This is a collective interest as an independent, intellectual, entrepreneurial science. As blackologists, we want an end to the marginalization of black scholars and their creative genius in black African culture and institutions of higher learning, HBCUs, PBIs, and independent black institutions, and homeschools. Learning by perpetration of urological studies as the only curriculum and superior thought must come to an end. This is a validation of human rights, of black scholars, and ethnic cleansing to practice in education or educate ourselves on black African culture vicariously through the Europeans' urological studies. Intelligence is not validated by ignorance. There was a time when we did not know any better, when we were miseducated. Once you know better, you do better. As blackologists, one cannot participate in their own subjugation. In the urological culture, black people were taught that black people were inferior and white people were superior. The manifestation of this indoctrination is that black people are underestimated, marginalized, and devalued. You can hear it every morning on WOL, DCnews.com. Just go to your computer, type it in there, WOL, DCnews.com. Joe Madison. The first time I heard that was the Black Panther Party. You can find an example of this every day in this country. This places blackology as an inferior cultural science and interferes that black scholars are inferior. Eldridge Cleaver told us about the cultural conditioning. He said that one day that black would be coming back, and indeed it has come back. And so, you must find, and you can find an example of this cultural conditioning every day in this country. This miseducation places blackology as an inferior science and infers that black scholars are inferior. According to Elder Dick Gregory, blackologically speaking, my intelligence is not validated by your ignorance. We do not need urological language arts to validate black African culture, nor to validate blackology. Blackologically speaking, this is a conflict of interest. We do not need the urological scholars to be overseers of the intellectual science of blackology. The only ones to be given mentorship in black African culture are those from our culture who have given their lives in the advancement and redemption of black people and the redevelopment of black culture. Black scholars must confront the privilege that is okay to be urological, but not okay to be blackological. If you are thinking blackological, you are not accepted. If you are thinking in the tradition of the uncompromising struggle of black African people or black people, you are integrated but not equal. Do not stand for this injustice. Black scholars must validate themselves by spiritually and cultural of our own heritage. If you are thinking blackological, you must do it with dignity in the schools, churches, and institutions. If you practice Black African culture, you must practice it with faith every day, not only practice it in February or in your homes or personal environment, but everywhere. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Psychologically speaking, we must believe we are somebody. Intellectual genius and urological fame and wealth. The Black story of intellectual genius and its direct relationship to fame and wealth of a number of urological scholars is an old tale that could easily find a companion in the career of Black scholars. Psychologically, the relationship between intellectual genius and urological fame and wealth is by no means isolated to song and dance. Europeans not only exploited Black Africans for their labor and material resources, but also have spent a lifetime portraying Black scholars as having made no significant contribution to the intellect and culture of humanity or humankind. All the while, urological scholars were stealing our ideals and culture. Remember, it was Black Africans who taught Europeans how to grow rice and manage most agricultural development in the Western Hemisphere while being held in captivity. For centuries, Europeans now on both sides of the Atlantic have been stealing and continue to steal ideals from Black African people or Black people on the continent, in the underdeveloped countries, plantations, ghettos of the Black diaspora, which have been our homes, our existence, and under oppression. In the marginalization of Black scholars. Psychologically, as we turn our attention to the collective rage of Black scholars who see the current condition as outcome and sum total of European greatest crime against humanity is the transatlantic slave trade. The only issue today of any merit is Blackologically. We want the end to the marginalization of Black scholars and their creativity and genius in Black African culture and institutions of higher learning by the perpetration of urological studies as the only curriculum or superior thought to come to an end. According to talk show host Joe Madison, WOL 1450 AM and WOL DC News, he said, in this world and the United States, Black people and white people have been taught that white people are superior and Black people are inferior. The manifestation of this is that Black people are underestimated, marginalized, and devalued. When you teach urological studies at historical Black colleges and universities and private public schools and home schools as the mandatory courses and superior knowledge, then you teach that Black knowledge is inferior and should not be taught, or should only be taught as an elective. This is urological cultural supremacy. Psychological research has revealed to study urological supremacy is to retrogress in the development of Blackological thought. To study urological studies as the basis and foundation of your knowledge is to surrender to the perpetration of urological supremacy as superior to your own cultural, intellectual integrity and evolution. This does not give consideration to the evolution of Black scholars into their autonomous cultural knowledge. Dr. Martin Luther King says, "I refuse to accept the idea that the isness of man's present nature makes him morally incapable of reaching up for the oughtness that forever confronts him." Blackologically speaking, I refuse to accept the idea that the presence of urological scholars makes the Black scholars morally incapable of reaching up for the Black knowledge that forever confronts him. Blackologist Professor Walter Zamani Cross. Blackological conclusion. Blackologically speaking, it is my cultural obligation and responsibility to promote, study, and live my culture whenever and wherever I exist. When one is educated on his culture, he or she cannot go on as though they are not culturally conscious or educated. To act as though they have not any knowledge of their culture is to lack cultural responsibility, obligation, and show disrespect to our ancestors. When Black people were miseducated, we did not have cultural knowledge, and we acted accordingly. Whatever the urological scholars said, that is what we did. Black scholars do not get educated to act and live like they were not educated. They are educated, and an educated people will believe it is their right to have exercise and utilize the orientation, spirituality, and cultural knowledge we have acquired through education and experience. 95 to 100% of Black scholars' degree plans require training, working daily with computers. 100% involve critical analysis of past documents and contemporary thinking on a daily basis, and involve writing research papers, term papers, thesis, dissertation, and intellectual books on Black culture at least once per week. It is not necessary to be tested by non-technological procedures because we are in the age of computers. The computers are equipped with spell check, thesaurus, and these features aid in the punctuation of the written word. Urological validation creates for Black scholars a feeling of worthlessness and despair because she has prepared him or herself for a task that has no career acquisition or entrepreneurial opportunities. Although Black scholars are an autonomous group, they are educational attainment is weakened when they are relying entirely on urological scholars. This ignores differences in modes of learning, each of culture, and creates a single hierarchy based on one type of intelligence and learning style for a particular cultural supremacy. It does not allow for Black scholars to contribute to the growth of linguistics for his or her autonomous intellectual knowledge. Intellectuals who respond to neurological learning will come out worse in the use of their own creative genius. To say that we are validated by English only marginalizes, underestimates, and devalues the evolution of Black African culture as its own body of knowledge in the commerce of the intellectual studies industry. The list of BlacNahlej. There is a list. It is the vision deeply rooted in the Black culture as the HBCUs and in the minds of Black scholars. There is a myth that one day in the Black culture, all over the world, the sons and daughters of former slaves, free Blacks, and all Black Africans will be proud of their culture and will be able to live together as brothers and sisters. There is a myth, brothers, that one day in the Black culture, BlacNahlej will be taught to Black children, and they will be able to say equality at last, and that they will no longer have to deal with second-class citizenship, minority status, and colonialism. There is a myth that the cultural science of BlacNahlej will come and eliminate cultural deprivation of Black people. There is a myth, brothers and sisters, the Black man will no longer be dependent on the knowledge of the culture, but that they will utilize the philosophy, theory, and the knowledge of their forefathers to develop for their culture solutions to the problems of Black culture and Black African people. There is a myth today in the Black culture. The science of BlacNahlej will become a reality in this day with this science. Blackologically testing, 1, 2, 3. Blackologically testing, 1, 2, 3. Travel the Blackological Underground Radio Network at blackology.com. The journey to the evolution of the Black mind. May the content of your character be the knowledge of your culture.
The way of BlacNahlej. What I speak in the languages of other cultures and assimilate to their ways, but have not cultural apprehension. I am a copycat or a second-class citizen. If I have experience, philosophy, and belief, and can put all these great names and have studied all their sciences so that to perpetuate their culture, but have not any consciousness of my own. I gain nothing. BlacNahlej is patient and kind. It is not jealous or boastful. It is not ashamed of its history. It is productive and creative. It does not rejoice at self-hatred. It rejoices in unity. It bears all its needs. It believes in all its needs. It has hope for the future. It knows what the people need and what they need. It endures all struggles. BlacNahlej never ends. As for assimilation, it will pass away. As for other cultures, they will cease. The theories of democracy are impressed, and the second-class citizenship is impressed. But when BlacNahlej comes, their imperfections will pass away. When I was enslaved, I spoke as a slave. I dreamed as a slave. I thought as a slave. I reasoned as a slave. I acted like a slave. When I became emancipated and free, I gave up my slave mentality. But now, we must acknowledge the need of BlacNahlej. But be it more man. Now, I have knowledge of self and equality. Then, I was afraid. Even as I understand the need of cultural equality, I know I must be understood. So I say to myself, it must be worth fighting for. It must be worth living for. It must be worth dying for. Otherwise, but the greatest is the law. If a black man or woman is not found something worth dying for, it's not. BlacNahlej, the ancestral gift, black folks, also, the man Psychology of cultural science in the black diaspora within the United States. The knowledge of our ancestors. Abarigani brothers and sisters, this is BlacNahlej's Professor Cross, coming to you from the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area in Fort Washington, Maryland, in Prince George County, the richest and most prosperous black county in the black diaspora within the United States. Whatever we got to do, whatever we must do it one day at a time. Listen to this.
Let freedom ring from every mountain. This Blackological radio show is dedicated to the invention, creation, development, and manufacturing of the intellectual cultural science of Blackology. The sole purpose of this radio show is for the promotion, perpetuation, and marketing of Blackology, a cultural science. Our goal is to develop this science and implement into the public, private, charter, African-centered, independent schools with a black population from 1% to 100%. We come to you today not as a sociologist, psychologist, anthropologist, not even a paleontologist. As a matter of fact, we do not come to you from any of the urological fields of studies. We come to you today as a blackologist from the cultural science of Blackology. And as we say daily, and we want to be able to say this as many times as we can so that you will know the definition of Blackology. It is so important. Blackology is defined as the scientific study of the evolution of Black African people and their culture. It is the perpetuation and utilization of the ideals, philosophies, theories, beliefs concepts and notions of their past and present life experience, and the spirit of their uncompromising struggle as their cultural knowledge. It is also the acclamation, affirmation, declaration, and proclamation of intellectual genius, creativity, and the Black story. Holistically, it is the manifestation of an authentic, autonomous, applied, Blackological, intellectual, cultural science, education, commerce. Yes, commerce. We're talking about jobs, careers, and entrepreneurship. In the research and study of Blackology, after studying the HBCUs, African-centered education, African studies, African American studies, Black nationalism, Pan-Africanism, Blackological research revealed that Black people really didn't know how to respect each other. So, after research and study of the ways we disrespect each other, I came up with what's called a Blackological respect chart. But I must say my teacher, Abner Walker, taught me about a respect chart. And this I was taught in African-centered education. As a Blackologist, I took African-centered education, and I was teaching Blackology, but I was also studying African-centered education, because like all things in Black culture, not everybody knows about them, and so I had heard about African-centered education, and I pursued it because I wanted to be able to know, as a Blackologist, what was this study about. And it was there that I embarked upon the respect chart. So not only was I studying it, but I understood that I needed to be able to do something with what I had learned. And so I learned the Blackological respect chart. These are things that we need to be done to give respect back to Black people. Black people are a particular people with a particular problem due to the process of enslavement, captivity, and white supremacy racism. In order to respect Black people and yourself as a Black person, you must be aware and practice these things daily, no matter what you do or the job you have. If you do not respect Black people, they will not respect you, and they will know it if you don't respect them as a Black person. Some things we take as though you can just pick it up as you go along, but that's not true. We need to really sit down and talk about how to respect ourselves, and then how to respect other Black people. Because of racism, white supremacy, we don't have a conscious Blackological attitude in terms of what needs to be done to respect Black people. So in the research and study, I came up with 55 components. And these are those, and listen to them. And you practice them daily, and know when you hear the ones that you have done to others, and then change them in your life so that you can be a better Black person, and even a better person. But you gotta be Black first. You can't run from Black. We've been trying to do that for years. But whenever we get black, we get better. Others listen to us. So here we go, the Blackological respect chart. Listen closely. 1, do not treat Eurological and Arabic religions as superior to Black African spirituality. Do not think that Eurological and Arabic names are better than Black African names. Know the difference between Eurological and Arabic and Black African names. If you do not know, ask. Do not think that lighter-skinned Black people are better than dark-skinned Black people. Do not think that lighter-skinned Black people are more intelligent than dark-skinned Black people. Stop making jokes about dark-skinned Black people so white people can laugh. Do not think that biracial or multiracial people are better than Black people. Do not judge Black people based on white or European standards of beauty. Do not think that you and all Black people are inferior. Treat other Black people the way you want to be treated. Respect other Black people. They are your brothers and sisters. Respect older Black people. They are our elders, and they will respect you. When you make it as a Black person, go back and help your brothers, sisters, mamas, fathers, family, and community. Do not think that Eurological hair is better than Black hair. Do not think that straightening your hair is better than natural Black African hair. Do not think that Eurological language arts is better than Black African language and linguistics. Stop celebrating Black African holidays and Black History Month in European attire. Do not apologize for being Black. Do not say, I happen to be Black. Do not say that being married to another race of people is better than being married to Black people. Do not call Black people NIGGRs or NIGGA. We must eliminate from our hearts, minds, and souls and mouths the words NIGGER, NIGGA, NIGGAS, my NIGGER. That NIGGER or NIGGA is bad. Do not use the word in place of any, do not use the word in a Negro in place of any of the above words in a disrespectful way. I'm going to say that again. Do not use the word Negro in place of any of the above words in a disrespectful way. Do not use the above words to give praise or to show appreciation to Black people. You will confuse Black children. Do not think that Eurological culture and holidays are more important than Black African culture and holidays. Buy African attire and wear it on Black holidays or your birthday. If you say you are African, Black African, or African American, and do not have any Black African attire, buy some. Wear it on Black holidays or your birthday. Do not think that being politically correct is to put Black issues on the back burner. Do not think that it is okay to tell Black people not to vote for Black people. Do not talk about the negative things that Black men do and never say the negative things that Black women do. Do not say that vice is Black culture. Stop blaming the Black man for all that is wrong with Black people. Stop making excuses for black women when they are wrong or make bad decisions. Do not treat all black people bad because you had a problem with one or some. Do not treat all black businesses bad because you had a problem with one or some. Stop making everything more important than black people and your own black family. Stop letting money be more important than black people. Stop exploiting our people for personal gains. When a black man is doing the right thing, get out of his way or help him to do the right thing. We must learn to respect the wisdom of our black scholars, their research and study for the justice, redemption, advancement of black people, and the redevelopment of black African culture. Respect tradition of black culture and know what they are. Black people, stop believing in white Jesus and white God. Black people, stop wasting all your money on a good time. Black people, trust and believe in each other. Black people, stop killing black people. Blackologically speaking, don't let anybody define who you are. You must define who you are. Know that black people have a responsibility and an obligation to cultural morality. The need to redevelop their culture for the next generation is theirs, and that means you too. Black people, have appreciation for your own culture. Black people, stop thinking just because you are black, you know black culture, when you know you never studied it nor practiced it. Black people, stop thinking that vice is culture. Stop saying get out of the hood and build the hood up. We'll say it again. Stop saying get out of the hood and build the hood up. Brothers and sisters, pull up your pants. Stop choosing white institutions over black institutions. This is institutional racism. Stop undervaluing, underestimating, and marginalizing black people. Stop mimicking, assimilating, and emulating white people. Stop believing urological studies are better than those founded by black scholars. Do not present yourself as a black person because you have some black DNA or a black person in your genealogy when you know you don't stand for or love black people in the redevelopment of black African culture. Know that the responsibility of the redevelopment of black African culture is solely that of every black person, including you. Stop using gender issues or sexual preference to divide black people. Stop thinking that your individualism is greater than the multitude of black people. Stop thinking that black people don't have any intelligence. Do not think that being an African American is better than being a black person. These are the 55 components of the Blackological Respect Chart. You may know some more. I want you to think about these. Go back and listen to them. Go to the web page. They're on the web page. Click on articles. You will find them. But the most important thing that we can do as black people is respect each other, respect our culture, respect our heritage, respect our mothers and fathers and our elders. Learn that in order to get respect, you have to give respect. In order to give respect, you must respect yourself. These are the many things that we deal with in the black culture. We want you to, as black people, to join us in this endeavor so that we will be able to do what we need to do in order to be the best that we can be every day. We're not trying to be better than anybody else. We're just trying to be the best that we can be every day. I learned that in African-centered school too. Be the best that you can be. Then you can learn to respect you. Don't look at somebody else to try to judge yourself according to them. That's how white supremacy racism works. If we're going to be the best that we can be, we have to learn to look at ourselves and take each challenge one day at a time, 1 minute at a time. That's what we have to do, brothers and sisters. Listen to this.
The myth of BlacNahlej. There is the myth. It is the vision deeply rooted in the black culture as the HBCUs and in the minds of black scholars. There is a myth that one day in the black culture, all over the world, the sons and daughters of former slaves, free blacks, and all black Africans will be proud of their culture and will be able to live together as brothers and sisters. There is a myth, brothers, that one day in the black culture, BlacNahlej will be taught to black children, and they will be able to say equality at last, and that they will no longer have to deal with second-class citizenship, minority status, and colonialism. There is a myth that the cultural science of BlacNahlej will come and eliminate the cultural deprivation of black people. There is a myth, brothers and sisters, the black man will no longer be dependent on the knowledge of the culture, but that they will utilize the philosophy, theory, and the knowledge of their forefathers to develop for their culture solutions to the problems of black culture and black African people. There is a myth today in the black culture. The science of BlacNahlej will become a reality. In this day, with this science, we can go out and achieve equality, and there will be no unsurmountable goal. There is a myth that my children and other young brothers and sisters will not come up the way I did. They will be judged on the content of their character, and their character will be molded and not by the watch measuring rod of white middle class standards. There is a myth this afternoon that there in this country and the world, black brothers and sisters will be able to study BlacNahlej in their schools, and that BlacNahlej knowledge rolls down like water, and black heritage like a mighty stream. There is a myth, brothers and sisters, that we will recognize the philosophies, theories, and the beliefs of black scholars, and that all black men, women, and children are involved by the creative will in some unalienable right. And among these are cultural affirmation, cultural solidarity, cultural education, and cultural intellectual equality. There is a myth that the exploitation, degradation, and cultural inequality will be eliminated, and black culture will be exalted, and that marginalization, underestimation, and devaluing of black people will come to an end, and black intellectuals will see this, and the glory of black culture will be revealed, and all black African people shall see this together. There is a myth this afternoon that the brotherhood of the black man will become a reality in this day. And through BlacNahlej, we will go out and achieve equality. With BlacNahlej, we will be able to build a tunnel of hope through a mountain of despair. We will be able to achieve a new day with all black people who will have knowledge of their culture. There will be able to join hands and say equality at last. Thank the ancestors for their sacrifice. Equality at last. Thank the Creator Almighty. Equality at last. We want to make them proud. There is a myth. BlacNahlej will make real all men are created equal. By the liberation of the innovative, authentic, moralistic, intellectual, creative genius of black African people and their culture. All praise is due to the ancestors and the Creator. BlacNahlej, Professor Joseph, the man Cross. BlacNahlej is the scientific study of the evolution of black African people, the perpetuation and utilization of their cultural knowledge, the intellectual creative genius, and the manifestation of cultural science education. The myth of BlacNahlej is real. There is a myth in the black culture today that the science of BlacNahlej is real. There is a myth that BlacNahlej is the heart, the mind, and the soul of black African people. There is a myth, brothers and sisters, that BlacNahlej will make black people real, intellectual. There is a myth of BlacNahlej. The myth of BlacNahlej is real. BlacNahlej, a cultural science, is real. BlacNahlej, a cultural science, is real. Most definitely.
and we should know about how real Blackology or cultural science is. As I think about the Blackological respect chart, I think about a question that someone asked me. They asked me, how do you know what is the slave mentality? How do you know when someone has a slave mentality, or how can you identify it? I thought to myself at the time, and what came to my recollection was the research and study of Blackology, and it revealed that how one could determine if they had the slave mentality was if they could not stop saying the word Nigger. And so with that in mind, I began to think about, what is this word? Why is it so important? Why are the children fascinated over this Nigger? What makes it carry from one generation to the next? From 1865 to 1965 was 100 years. 1865, the emancipation, or the physical freedom of black people from captivity. From 1865 to 1965, 100 years. And then from 1965 to 2005, that's 40 years, 140 years, and we're still carrying this thing. What is the element of Nigger, and why are we carrying it? What is the vehicle that takes it from generation to generation? And so I thought about religion, because it seems that all of the black people who are still carrying this slave mentality, and it can be mostly identified through Blackologically testing 1, 2, 3. Blackologically testing 1, 2, 3. This is the Blackological Radio Highway, virtual university at blackology.com. The journey to the evolution of the black mind. May the content of your character be the knowledge of your culture. This is blackology.com. This was Christmas to those who came before. Those upon whom miracles can stand. They gave their life that we might be able to have what we have today. These are those upon whom all blessings behold. These handles in my teaching. These were process. Marcus Garvey. Booker T. Washington. Max Turner. Homo Kenyatta. Toussaint Louverture. Mary McLeod Bethune. Nelson Mandela. Julius Nyerere.
Kwame Nkrumah, Malcolm X, W.E.B. Du Bois, Harriet Tubman, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Sr., Sir Joyner Truth, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Noble Drew Ali, Paul Volcker, Frederick Douglass, Samuel Ringwald Ward, Ida B. Wells Barnett, our grandparents, mothers and fathers. These are those who gave their lives. This is not all of them, but these are those who represent our struggle. These are those who coordinated the uncompromised struggle of our people for justice, liberty, freedom, and the redevelopment of our culture. It is through these that we will acquire redemption and cultural redevelopment. These are those upon whose shoulders we stand. This is a tribute to our ancestors, mothers and fathers, and those black scholars who gave their lives that we might be here today. Hold up your hand, wave it from side to side for those brothers and sisters who gave their life in the Middle Passage. Thank the Creator for our ancestors who made the voyage. This is a tribute to those who came before us. The purpose of these BlacNahlej is to direct the people to a future that will place them at a place of equality, redemption, and cultural redevelopment. This is a tribute to our culture, our black story, and our heritage. These are the theories, philosophies that they use by any means necessary. Non-violent protest, civil rights struggles, voter rights, affirmative action, unity and equality. They were relentless. They sacrificed and they practiced brotherhood. They did nothing without coalitions. We must follow their example. We take our hat off to those who provided us with philanthropy. They practice martyrdom, truth by proven facts, by everyday living. They live by the scriptures. Street knowledge. Information by word of mouth. They believe I am somebody. The talented tent concept. It is a tribute to those who came before us. It is because of them that we can hold our heads up high. We thank them for all that they've done to make life better for us. It's a tribute to those who came before us, those upon whose shoulders we stand. They gave their life that we might be able to have what we have today. These are those upon whom all blessings behold. These Hamilton, Denmark, BC, Gabriel Process, Marcus Garvey, Booker T. Washington, Nat Turner, Jomo Kenyatta, Toussaint Louverture, Mary McLeod Bethune, Nelson Mandela, Julius Nyerere, Kwame Nkrumah, Malcolm X, W.E.B. Du Bois, Harriet Tubman, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Sr., Sir Joyner Truth, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Noble Drew Ali, Paul Volcker, Frederick Douglass, Samuel Greenwald Ward, Ida B. Wells Barnett, our grandparents, mothers and fathers. These are those who gave their lives. This is not all of them, but these are those who represent our struggle. These are those who coordinated the uncompromised struggle of our people for justice, liberty, freedom, and the redevelopment of our culture. It is through these that we will acquire redemption and cultural redevelopment. The
of those upon whose shoulders we stand. This is a tribute to our ancestors, mothers and fathers, and those black scholars who gave their lives that we might be here today. Hold up your hand, wave it from side to side for those brothers and sisters who gave their life in the Middle Passage. Thank the Creator for our ancestors who made the voyage. This is a tribute to those who came before us. The purpose of these BlacNahlejes is to direct the people to a future that will place them at a place of equality, redemption, and cultural redevelopment. This is a tribute to our culture, our black story, and our heritage. These are the theories, philosophies that they use by any means necessary. Non-violent protest, civil rights struggles, voter rights, affirmative action, unity and equality. They were relentless. They sacrificed and they practiced brotherhood. They did nothing without coalitions. We must follow their example. We take our hat off to those who provided us with philanthropy. We must give a tribute to those who came before us. When they practiced communalism, they practiced martyrdom, truth by proven facts, by everyday living. They live by the scriptures. Street knowledge. Information by word of mouth. They believe I am somebody. The palliative care concept. This is a tribute to those who came before us. It is because of them that we can hold our heads up high. We thank them for all that they've done to make life better for us. Welcome to BlacNahlej Radio Highway, Virtual University, the journey to the evolution of the black mind. May the content of your character be the knowledge of your culture. This is Blackologist Cross, UBCD, coming to you from Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, in Fort Washington, Maryland, in Prince George County, the wealthiest, most progressive black county in the black diaspora within the United States. This Blackological radio show is dedicated to the invention, creation, development, and manufacturing of the intellectual cultural science of Blackology. The sole purpose of this radio show is the promotion, perpetuation, and marketing of Blackology, a cultural science. Our goal is to develop the science of Blackology and implement it into the public-private charter African-centered independent schools with black population of 1% to 100%. We come to you today not as a sociologist, nor as a psychologist, not even as an anthropologist. As a matter of fact, we do not come to you from any of the urological fields of studies. We come to you today as a blackologist from the intellectual cultural science of Blackology. Blackology is defined as the scientific study of the evolution of black African people and their culture. It is the perpetuation and utilization of the ideals, philosophies, theories, beliefs, concepts, and notions of their past and present life experience and the spirit of their uncompromising struggle as their cultural knowledge. It is also the acclamation, affirmation, declaration, and proclamation of intellectual genius, creativity, and the black story. Holistically, it is the manifestation of an authentic, autonomous, applied, blackological, intellectual, cultural science, education, commerce. We say this because this autonomous science does not take on the vicarious scheme of urological thought inscribed for black people. This research model is to create a new set of facts, data, philosophy, and theories from the black culture. Its purpose is to seek justice, redemption, advancement of black people, and the redevelopment of black African culture. Its goal is to build intellectual studies that will generate educational commerce for all black people. We believe at Blackology Institute that the job of creating a commerce for our culture is solely that of black people, their elders, their scholars, and it is specifically, subjectively, and directly the job of black people. Let me share with you the black historiography. Blackology began with the instruction of black thought from the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense in 1968, and its application was utilized at Harper High School from 1972 to 1974. In the city of Chicago on the South Side, in the Inglewood area, in the extended black culture during the redevelopment era. This was the time of the integration and the cross-integration of Harper High School, the crossing of Ashland Avenue, which was the dividing line between blacks and whites in the city of Chicago, Illinois, on the South Side in the Inglewood area. This was the years of the Think Black campaign of the black student body at Harper High School. This was the time of the murder of Dr. Martin Luther King, Fred Hampton, and Mark Clark. This catastrophe left such and impact on Black youth of Chicago. We were forever indebted with the honor of picking up the bloodstained banner of the unconscious and uncompromising struggle of Black people and their culture. This was the beginning of the quest for Black knowledge. The origin of Blackology's seeds of Blackology were planted in the spring of 1974 at DuSable High School in the city of Chicago in an after-school Black history course. Blackology was not founded in sociology, psychology, anthropology, paleontology. As a matter of fact, it wasn't founded in any of the urological studies. It was founded in this Black history course. The word Blackology was first read by the Blackologists. The name of the author is Charles Maynard. This article was prophetic in its perception of Blackology. Charles Maynard believed that one day in this land there would come Blackology, the science of Black culture. The utilization and perpetuation of Blackology got its start at the HBCUs, Prairie View A&M University, Howard University, Bishop College, UDC, and 8 other historical Black colleges and universities. It can be said that Prairie View A&M University is the home of Blackology, the school of Blackological thought. The Black scholars who were instrumental in the conceptual and developmental stage of Blackology were the Black student body of Prairie View A&M University from January 1987 to August 1988. The HBCUs provided the support, environment, and atmosphere that was needed to develop and inspire the conception of Blackology. At the HBCUs, you could be whatever you wanted to be. It was a home away from home. This type of environment is what it takes to make the HBCUs the heart, the mind, and the soul of Black intellectual evolution. Two sons of the Black culture, Blackologists Croce and Dr. Sirleaf, continued their research and study of Blackology at Howard University in the African Studies Department in Washington, D.C., and incorporated Blackology Institute in 1997. These two Blackologists also conducted a 20-year research and study that produced, built, created, invented the curriculums, lexicons, degrees, and wrote 14 books, studies, and research for the intellectual cultural science of Blackology. This research was conducted simultaneously with the Howard University African Studies PhD program from 1989 to 2010. These Blackologists are alumni of Howard University and graduates of the first Blackological Science Doctorate degree from the Blackology Research and Development Institute. Our Blackological topic today is graduate professionals and their careers in intellectual studies remains a critical challenge despite the conception and completion of self-education, undergraduate and graduate schools. Among some Black scholars are far too many graduate professionals completed degrees plans with little or no academic credentials and some have explicit credentials in terms of their intellectual acquisition, but find low or no opportunities in the autonomous cultural studies. Only small portions of Black scholars see a direct link between their cultural studies and how it can benefit them in their subsequent intellectual careers, both in acquisition and wealth. Many do not know how to gain access to intellectual careers and opportunities. The early intellectual career problems of Black scholars are particularly troubling, since they go together with a range of miseducation, including high rates of non-autonomous studies and involvement in anti-relevant courses and activities. The BlacNahlej radio show approach is one providing and promising vehicle for developing and dealing with these studies and to help Black scholars reach their full intellectual potential. BlacNahlej radio show will motivate young Black people and help them to learn in an intellectual and cultural framework, gain valuable experience, valued credentials, connections to careers, mentoring assistance, subcontracts, and effective methods for education of entrepreneurial and career development. In the cultural science education or intellectual studies, BlacNahlej radio show proposes to utilize the educated Black scholars in the fields of intellectual studies and urological studies. In doing so, it will provide career opportunities for those who are under and unemployed. In addition, BlacNahlej radio show will also build cultural science education, BlacNahlej, as an intellectual study for Black African cultural market. This will meet the high demand for requests to supply Black African intellectual studies in the HBCU, public, private, charter, and independent schools, with a Black population from 1 to 100%. Blackological research reveals that the 1994 School to Work Opportunities Act and Gold 2000 Educate American Act authorized federal support to expand state and local efforts to implement School to Work initiative. But how far have these initiatives developed? There is quite an evolution taking place in the cities and states, evolving substantial numbers of Black individuals and Black intellectuals in the urological fields of studies, such as sociology, psychology, anthropology, history, political science, literature, journalism, African American studies, and African studies. Also, those Black scholars who have developed autonomous cultural studies in the past 75 years, such as Afrocentricity, African-centered education, Negro history, Black nationalism, Black poetry, Black Pan-Africanism, and Blackology. These intellectuals are moving toward the support for the development of the cultural science of Blackology and the implementation of this field of study that will provide careers, entrepreneurship of their cultural knowledge in the service of the Black African cultural market. There is a supply and demand for the autonomy of BlacNahlej. to be taught to Black people. There are the markets reaching large numbers of Black scholars in the historical Black colleges and universities, Black institutions, and predominantly Black institutions, PBIs, and Black people in their local communities and families. What we can learn from this existing array of markets? Can we observe any cultural impacts of a new approach? What is the long-term potential maximum proportion of a cohort reachable through the STW, School to Work Initiative? This program will contribute to the vision of Blackologist Croce and Dr. Sirleaf by providing new knowledge about one of the past policy initiatives that will aid in the implementation of Blackology to the U.S. educational system and assist in the decline of occupational opportunities for Black scholars in the intellectual studies. This project will also study and provide information about what is taking place in the nation in the implementation of the School to Work initiatives and entrepreneurship of Black intellectuals in cultural science education. The project, the Blackology radio show, will provide weekly interviews of Black scholars from HBCU PhD programs, local, national, and international, to showcase the intellectual studies market. The products will include the evolution of Black scholars from HBCUs, public, private, and charter schools. 2, the defining Blackology as cultural science education and intellectual study. 3, a documentary on the progress of entrepreneurship of Blackology implemented into HBCU, public, private, and charter schools. With Black population from 1 to 100% as cultural science education and intellectual career opportunities. And 4, textbook and academic articles dealing with opportunities and careers in intellectual studies and examining the effects of Blackology supervised career-based education or cultural studies. Now we will go to the phone and we will take some calls. This is BlacNahlej. Welcome back. Blackology of cultural science. It's a known fact. We can never be number one with anyone else until we are number one with ourselves. We can go all around hallelujah and jumping in everybody's program, but if we ain't got a program, we're not going to be number one. It's time to stop singing and start thinking. Of course, you could, sing all you want, but you can't sing up on freedom. But you can think up on some freedom. The context of the problem. The tragic plight of black scholars is having enormous consequences in the United States educational system. Concentrations of absence of schools, chronic joblessness having increased in recent decades. The lack of black men and black women as scholars in the system. These problems have created the nation's rising rate of under and unemployed black scholars in despair. The real problem is that there are not enough jobs. And as black scholars, we take it upon ourselves to do the job of making jobs. The repeat of this is a major policy response to the apparent failure of the nations to deal with long-term solutions. Yet it is clear from a large body of research that the problem of black scholars run far deeper than the current solutions. We know that there's going to be some skeptics about blackology, and they want to know what blackology is. Blackology is cultural science education, intellectual stimulus for careers, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Blackological research has revealed, as of 2004, there are 8 million black children in the United States school system. A viable market. There is a supply and demand for cultural science education to develop the intellectual genius and creativity of black children and the knowledge of their culture. This autonomous cultural science is necessary for the growth and development of all black children. And we want to be specific, direct, subjective about this point. Listen to the data on the potential of blackology in the local, DC, PG, Northern Virginia, and in the nation, the U.S. black school market. The U.S. schools black market as subcontractors. The potential, the opportunity is there. In D.C., there are 205 schools. If we just put 3 blackologists in each, it would equal 615 career jobs and positions. In PG, there are 202 schools. Put 3 blackologists in each, it would equal 606 career jobs and positions. In Northern Virginia, there is 202 schools. Put 3 blackologists in each, 606 career jobs and positions. In the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, that includes D.C., PG, Northern Virginia, totals 1,816 career jobs at $35,000 each position, equal 63,560,000 intellectual stimulus. In the U.S., there is 205,000 schools. If we just put 3 blackologists, cultural science specialists, in each one of these schools, it would equal 615,000 career positions at $35,000 annually for each position, equals 21 million. No, that's 21 billion. 526 million dollars of intellectual stimulus in the black culture. One of the reasons why there's such a high issue of racial tension in the United States that you always hear from the far right or the white community and culture is that they have to provide jobs for black people. As black scholars, blackologists, we would like to take on the task of building the jobs for our people and our culture with this intellectual cultural science. We will never ever have to ask or beg others for jobs, because then we would be able to do the job ourselves. In the recent Blackological study noted the disappearance of careers as the primary underlying cause of intellectual studies opportunities. This research points to an unprecedented situation in which the vast majority of scholars in many interdisciplinary studies are without jobs, and those employed are facing potential cutbacks. The central role of non-autonomous cultural studies in creating careers and entrepreneurial opportunities in the black cultural market is contributing to the problem. Careers and entrepreneurial opportunities are not only a way to make a living and to support one's family, it is also a way to constitute self-sufficiency and independence as a way of being creative and productive. Intellectual entrepreneurship promotes economic wealth. All cultures have wealth. We want the black culture to have wealth that is connected to our autonomous intellectual cultural science. In fact, entrepreneurship has not been utilized in the interdisciplinary fields by the U.S. Department of Education or local funding agencies in the way of subcontracting new fields in the past or present system. And if I'm wrong, prove me wrong. Show me the way to be able to implement BlacNahlej as a subcontractor so that we as BlacNahlejs will be able to do the task that we have been dreaming about, that we have been talking about, that we have been fighting about. If you want to be able to put some conclusion to civil rights, give us the intellectual right to develop our own cultural science for our intellectuals and scholars. We put them to work teaching about the Black story, the history that is our goal and our vision. The Black scholars' unemployment rate has risen and the graduation population is at an all-time high. However, the expanding Black cultural market requires entrepreneurial opportunities. The implementation of cultural science education BlacNahlej will provide new careers, opportunities, and entrepreneurship in managerial and professional positions, as well as grassroots personnel. Entrepreneurial career demands are increasing even for opportunities outside the managerial, technical, and professional ranks. Educated, trained, skilled intellectuals are having an increasing difficulty and time, and most have a worse career market position than their counterparts 20 to 30 years ago. Their earnings are that of high school dropouts who manage to find full-time work decline by 50% between 1970 and 2004. Black high school graduates who choose interdisciplinary fields without any occupational future have also fared poorly in the intellectual market, with males, or I should say Black males, seeing their wages decline by about 50% over the same period. The plight of Black scholars is a major problem in the United States, and it has reached crisis proportions in the intellectual fields. The demand for cultural science education is expanding, and Black scholars are fed up with job requirements and lack of opportunities. They are likely to seek entrepreneurial careers. It is apparent that if the Black scholars are going to have careers or opportunities, they will have to make them for themselves. BlacNahlej Research and Development Institute has examined the Black scholars' plight and career path. The results documented that the vast majority of these problems are beyond college and university walls. For example, meeting the demands for speaking and writing career must be taken on by Black scholars themselves. Other important aspects include gaining knowledge of system and its interrelated procedures, reacting constructively to positive or negative criticisms, uses of information systems, and set of priorities are all the responsibility of the Black scholars, both financially and otherwise. BlacNahlej conducted a survey of over 8 HBCUs in 7 geographical areas: Chicago, Chicago State, Kennedy King, Malcolm X. Dallas, Bishop College, University of Texas at Arlington, Houston, Texas, Southern Prairie View A&M University, Washington, D.C., Howard University, University of the District of Columbia, Prince George County, Bowie State, PG County, and Sojourner Douglas College, Baltimore, Morgan State, and Coppin State. In North Carolina, North Carolina Central University. Again, the majority of the jobs occupied by Black scholars consist of positions going to work with educational qualifications less than a BA degree. They work as police, fire, maintenance, security, Department of Safety, business, or bus drivers, taxi drivers, waiters, and others. This is not marginalizing these operations or occupations. But as Black scholars, one cannot underestimate or devalue the education they have paid, struggled, and worked to achieve. Education is an investment of hard-earned income and family savings in these fields. It is also the result of long, hard, dedicated discipline and work. Black scholars believe in the necessity, importance, and value of education. They want for this entity to do for us what we expect it to do, make a better life for us and our families. In the Constitution, it says that one cannot be discriminated against for their national origin. Our national orientation and origin is intellectual and scholarly education. The more educated we get, the more disbelief and disdain we receive from the occupations we work in that have educational qualifications less than BA degree. As a result, we are discriminated against because intellectuals are taught, trained, and instructed to question and challenge people with their education. Without this knowledge, they are null and void and cannot exist. Black scholars do not get an education to act and live like they were not educated. They are educated, and as an educated man or woman, they believe it is their right to have exercise and utilize the orientation and knowledge they have acquired. Now we will listen to The Black Culture is Strong. We will go to the phone for just a short minute, and we will determine that we are going to be of self-determination when it comes to building our culture in this vast nation. Blackology of cultural science. That is our goal. We need to have culture within, culture without. And get can no longer be dismissed for some kinds of science or theological scholar. If we don't have culture, we will be
If we are to have equality, our culture must be the knowledge. Yes, as Black intellectuals, we must identify who we are. According to Dr. Martin Luther King, we are tied together. We are interrelated. What affects one directly, indirectly affects the other. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one affects the other. If we do not love our culture, others cannot trust us to love theirs. Have you ever stopped to think about it? That when you wake up in the morning, you can't go to work without depending on other brothers and sisters. Somebody might call you and say, good morning. Turn on your radio and listen to WOL 1450 AM, XM 169, Magic 104.3 FM, WHUR FM, WUGC FM 95, and other Black radio stations. You are depending on half of brothers and sisters in your culture. When you go into the kitchen, you see pictures of your mother, fathers, sisters, brothers, nieces, nephews, children, and friends. Before you get out the house in the morning, you are dependent on more than half your culture. Maybe you want to go home for Christmas or go to the family reunion. No individual can live alone. No family can live alone. And as long as we try, the more we are going to have social problems and self-hatred. We will not have equality until we recognize this basic fact of the necessity of cultural knowledge. How can one afford being suppressed when you see with his own eyes evidence of brothers and sisters who deny themselves cultural identity? How can one avoid being suppressed when he sees with his own eyes the lack of cultural affirmation? There are no grammar schools teaching Blackology. There are no middle schools teaching Blackology. No high schools, no colleges or universities. When I beheld these conditions, something inside of me said, we Black folks stand idly by while our children are being starved of cultural relevance and knowledge. I started thinking about this fact, and I said to myself, I know we can educate Black children on Blackology in the Black churches, Black schools, the HBCUs. There is the solution to the problem. We could use those books wrote by Black writers, authors, collecting dust in the libraries at HBCUs, public libraries, all across the Black culture and the Black world. We have a surplus of cultural knowledge. We can solve this problem of Black children going into the world starving for the lack of knowledge about their culture. We must not allow for another generation of Black children to become adults without cultural solidarity. We no longer want our children to go to bed hungry for cultural knowledge, starving for self-worth. In order for the little light within our children to shine, more than the NIGGER, more than a servant. The black man is a child of God, made in his image. Therefore, we must be respected as such. Until the black man sees this everywhere, until black nation sees this everywhere, we will be fighting ourselves. One of the strangest things is that all the black scholars talk about culture. The BlacNahlej people of today talk eloquently about culture. The black scholars of the past have given their lives for cultural liberation. They were Jomo Kenyatta, Kwame Nkrumah, Haile Selassie, Nat Turner, Toussaint Louverture, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Mary Matthias Bethune, W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, Ida B. Wells Barnett, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Martin Luther King, Jr., and Malcolm X. Were black scholars seeking cultural knowledge. What is the problem? We must not talk about the black culture as a distant goal, as an end we seek. One day we must come to see that psychology is not merely a distant goal we seek, but it is a means by which we must arrive at cultural intellectual equality. We must pursue cultural needs through psychological means. We truly believe in the sacredness of all black knowledge. We won't exploit black people anymore. We won't trample over black people with the feet of the oppressed. We won't kill black people anymore. When we learn blackology, we will learn the power of creative and redemptive love. There are four types of black love: the black man who loves black woman, and the black woman who loves black man. The black family love, the love of black culture, and the love yourself. The love of the black man and the black woman, and the black woman to the black man, is some of the most beautiful love ever to have been expressed. It's this kind of love. Black people talk about this love. Black poets, writers, musicians, in their writing, music, and poetry. Black writers such as James Baldwin, Paul Langston Hughes, Langston Hughes, sisters such as Gwendolyn Brooks, Nikki Giovanni, Phyllis Wheatley, and black musicians such as Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, Bessie Smith, Ethel Waters. This list could go on, but I think you know what I mean. Choose some for yourself. These brothers and sisters talk eloquently about the love of black men to black women, and black women to black men. There is the black family love. When you love your brothers and sisters, this is the kind of love. When you love black people because they are your friends, your neighbors, and your family. This is the kind of intimate love. This is the kind of love you have with black people because you get along with them well. And those that you like, you love them because you are loyal. Being the black love on this level. You love all black people, not because you like them, or because their ways appeal to you, but you love every black man, woman, and child because God loves them. These are cultural aspirations, unalienable rights, which all people are involved in by creating will, and they are equality, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is what BlacNahlej means when it talks about love your brothers and sisters. I'm so happy they did not say like, because I find it hard to like brothers and sisters who make the job more important than the black children and the black culture. I can't like brothers and sisters who would exploit me. I can't like brothers and sisters who would ignore the injustices placed on black people of America and the world. I can't like brothers and sisters who threaten to kill black people day in and day out. Cultural love is greater than life. It is creative, redemptive, and goodwill for all black people. The fourth love is to love yourself. When you love yourself, I mean, you must learn that the greatest love of all is to love yourself. That means anything that you represent is you. If you don't love BlacNahlej, you don't love yourself. That means anything that you represent is you. If you don't love BlacNahlej, you don't love your mother, your father, your sisters, brothers. To be truthful to you, you don't love yourself. Learning to love yourself is interwoven with everything that is your culture. If you don't love your culture, you don't love yourself. You must learn to love yourself when no one else does. Never let anyone teach you to hate yourself. I have seen too much hatred to want to hate myself. Hatred is too great a burden to bear. Somehow we must be able to stand up to our bitter opposition and say that BlacNahlej is cultural, intellectual, and quality. Believe what you will, brothers and sisters, but we will gain your confidence by our ability to love our culture. Support the injustices of police departments. Denounce your culture. Come into our neighborhood and exploit our brothers and sisters. Be you assured, we will wear you down by our compassion to love you. We will so appeal to your heart and conscience. And we will wear you down in the process. Our victory will be a victory of cultural, intellectual equality. As black intellectuals, we must understand the power of creative and redemptive love. In the struggle of our past, we must acknowledge that from struggle comes growth. Culturally, we have grown into a people of creative and redemptive love. This is a justifiable right to love all black people, not because you like them, but because the Creator loves them. If there is to be equality in culture and goodwill towards all black people, we must finally believe in the ultimate reality of BlacNahlej, and that is cultural equality is based on moral balance.
let us know that in the process that we have cultural, intellectual equality. So today, I still believe in blackology, that black people will rise up and come to see that they are made to live together as brothers and sisters. I still believe in blackology this morning, that one day black children will be judged on the basis of the content of their character. And that character will be molded by blackology and intellectual cultural science. As long as the ologies of other cultures are the barometers by which we judge ourselves, we will have second-class character, second-class citizenship. We will be judged by the ideals of others. I believe blackologically that brothers and sisters will have cultural intellectual equality. I believe blackologically that brotherhood will be more than just a word at the end of the sentence. It will be the first word of Virginia on the black cultural agenda. And black knowledge will roll down like waters, and black heritage like a mighty stream. I still believe in blackology today, that all black people will believe in their culture, and that black people will exploit black people anymore. And black people will no longer rise up against black people anymore. Neither will they study self-hatred anymore. Yes, I believe in blackology, that the black man will develop their own ideas, philosophies, theories, to make vehicles to take us through the 21st century, and blackology will be the vehicle of cultural and intellectual equality. I believe that blackology will put an end to second-class citizenship and minority status, and make black culture a reality by which we achieve intellectual liberation. If anybody asks you about blackology, tell them that it is a drum maker for black culture, a drum maker for black heritage, a drum maker for intellectual cultural liberation. Psychologically, we want to mention the fact that this cultural knowledge came from the HBCU, black culture, black high schools, and the black community. We want you to say, if anybody asks you, that blackology is a drum maker for cultural intellectual equality. A drum maker for black knowledge. As black people, we want to say that blackology is the conscience of our culture and our heritage. All black people must be committed to the elevation of black culture, black knowledge, and the cultural science of blackology. Blackology, a cultural science. This is blackologist Professor Cross. We want to give our blackological thought and conclusion. We want to thank our producer, Paulette Smith, and Don Paul Industries, Com5, Sister Cross, and all our supporters. We love and appreciate all black people, and we believe in y'all. May the content of your character be the knowledge of your culture. Blackologically speaking, I refuse to accept the ideal that the presence of urological scholars make the black scholar morally incapable of reaching up for the black knowledge that forever confronts him. In the words of the Ba language in Liberia, West Africa, Muja Senje, which means our home first.
This is a test. This is a test. Blackologically testing. This is a test. Blackological radio show.
Technical difficulties, please stand by. We're having technical difficulties, please stand by. You're at Blackology Research and Development Institute, a cultural science. Blackology is an ideal whose time has manifested itself in this century. We're working diligently to bring forth to you an intellectual cultural science so that black culture will have its own cultural commerce. Blackologically testing, 1, 2, 3. Blackologically testing, 1, 2, 3. Blackologically testing.
Hip-hop speaks in the languages of other cultures and assimilates their ways, but has not spoken black religion. I am a copycat or a second-class citizen. If I have this theory, philosophy, and belief, and can do all this great things, and have studied all this science so as to perpetuate their culture, but have not a sense of my own cultural solidarity. I am walking the path of this book. If I throw away all my heritage and hold up the heritage of other cultures, but have not any consciousness of my own, I gain nothing. Blackology is patient and kind. It is not jealous or boastful. It is not ashamed of its history. It is productive and creative. It does not rejoice at self-hatred. It rejoices in unity. It bears all its needs. It believes in all its needs. It has hope for the future. It knows what the people need and what they want. It endures all struggles. Blackology never ends. As for assimilation, it will pass away. As for other cultures, they will cease. For their theories, philosophy, are imperfect, and their second-class citizens is imperfect. way of mentality. But now, we must acknowledge the need of BlacNahlej. But this more matters. Now, I have knowledge of self and equality. Then, I was afraid. Even as I understand the need of broken society, I know I must be understood. So I think to myself, it must be worth fighting for. It must be worth living for. It must be worth dying for. Otherwise, it's but the place to die. If a black man or woman is not found something worth dying for, it's not. BlacNahlej is the ancestors' gift to black folks. Also, the man
BlacNahlej, a cultural. Welcome to BlacNahlej.com. Habari Gani, brothers and sisters. Travel the Blackological Underground Radio Network. The journey to the evolution of the black mind. May the content of your character be the knowledge of your culture. This is Blackologist Cross, UBZD, coming to you from Fort Washington, right outside of Washington, D.C., in Prince George County, the wealthiest, most progressive black county in the black diaspora within the United States. This Blackological radio show is dedicated to the invention, creation, development, and manufacturing of the intellectual cultural science of Blackology. The sole purpose of this radio show is the promotion, perpetuation, and marketing of Blackology, a cultural science. Our goal is to develop this science and implement into the public-private charter, African-centered, independent schools with population from 1% to 100%. We come to you today not as a sociologist, psychologist, nor as an anthropologist. As a matter of fact, we do not come to you from any of the urological fields of studies. We come to you as a blackologist, an intellectual cultural science. Blackology is defined as the scientific study of the evolution of black African people and their culture. It is also the acclamation, affirmation, declaration, and proclamation of intellectual genius, creativity, and the black story. It is the utilization and perpetuation of the ideals, philosophies, theories, beliefs, concepts, and notions of their past and present life experience and the spirit of their uncompromising struggle as their cultural knowledge. Holistically, it is the manifestation of an authentic, autonomous, applied, blackological, intellectual, cultural science, education, commerce. We say this because this autonomous science does not take on the vicarious scheme of urological thought inscribed for black people. This research model is to create a new set of facts, data, philosophy, and theories from the black culture. Its purpose is to seek justice, redemption, advancement of black people, and the redevelopment of black African culture. Its goal is to build intellectual studies that will generate educational commerce for all black people. Today, our topic is the difference of Blackology. What is the difference of Blackology is a question that has been asked by many people who come into contact or learn about Blackology, a cultural science. We're going to elaborate on what the difference is. Listen, Blackology is as its people. It is physically distinguishable from all other urological sciences. But at the same time, it is humane. Blackology is apparently different from all urological studies. But at the same time, it is an intellectual, humanitarian science. Blackology is a science that reflects our uncompromising struggle, and as its people, It is distinguishable from all other humanitarian studies or science. Blackology tells its own time. Blackology is written with the freedom of expression of the Black struggle, its experience, and its culture. These are the aspects of Blackology that make it different from all other studies. These are the perspectives that make Blackology authentically and genuinely Blackological. These aspects and perspectives have their own evolutional identity, appearance, and distinction. Blackology as its people, it is and can be recognized upon visual contact and pronunciation of its content. Blackology is distinguishable from all other urological studies or Arabic studies or Asian studies and other intellectual studies such as African American studies, Black history, Negro history, African-centered education, Africology, Africology, Pan-Africanism, Afrocentrism,